Hello and welcome. Today we're going to have a quick look at the Colossus Volan from the Rift Storm Legion expansion, coming next Wednesday on November the 13th. Now Volan is deemed sort of the Mega Colossus of Storm Legion. He has an entire sort of zone event dedicated to him, and there are multiple phases, and it is just an absolutely epic boss fight. So as you may have noticed, we're outside his chamber and the Storm Legion are attempting to summon him, and I believe we arrived just a bit too late. So we defeat them, but on their death it sends out a sort of purple pulsing energy which awakens him. As you can see, his chamber is unlocking, and you know, this is the point we know we're in a bit of shit. So this was filmed on the beta during the public beta weekend, also known as beta 3, but this was for the everyone who basically raced to level 60 and didn't really enjoy the outside world much during that weekend. But you know, outside world doesn't have Colossus, so swings and roundabouts, swings and roundabouts. So as you can see, he's just awakened from his slumber and he is not a very happy man at all. There are a few sand Volan worshippers down there, and well, sorry, there were past tense. They all just got totally annihilated. A few jumpy pads that you can use knocking about, which are very, very enjoyable. Nothing sort of beats being thrown about in the air by a giant jumping pad. As you just saw, then the jumping pad turned orange. When the jumping pads turn orange, you jump on them, basically that gives you an opportunity to interact with the boss in some way, shape or form. Now in this phase, jumping on the jumping pads can, they turn orange when he is charging up his chest ability. Jumping on them then makes you intercept the chest ability and charges you with electricity. You can then fire this electricity straight back at Volan for a heavy chunk of damage, which is extremely good. I believe the damage amount is about 250k, so when you've got a mega ability that makes you do 250k damage, you don't really want to pass that up. So whenever you see him charging up the chest, I believe you have about 15 seconds to get to a jump pad, intercept that ability, and boom, fire it straight back at him. There are also quite a few other things going on during this phase. There are swirly vortexes of doom moving all across the zone, as you might see. Standing in these makes you take quite a bit of AoE damage a second, so you want to avoid them. There he goes, charging up his chest again. Also, there are 3 parts of him that you can attack during this phase. Now, one of them, which we just killed, was the left leg of Volan. The second part is the right leg of Volan, and the final part is his chest piece, also known as the charger piece of Volan. I don't actually know the technical name for it, but I will call it the chest piece of Volan for now. There's another thing he does with his hands which radiates energy, and basically, if you can't already see from the visual effects, if you are underneath that you will get singed in a matter of seconds, so you want to move from that as much as possible. He's also doing a swipe now, as you can see, which I unfortunately get hit by, but you know, I have quite a bit of health so I can withstand it. Okay, so we've just killed all the pieces of the first phase of Volan, and you know, now he's getting a bit mad. He's, you know, storming off in a bit of a strop, and you know, he's doing like what most Colossus like to do when they're not too happy, you know, jump on a bridge. He could just walk under the bridge, but you know, he needs to exert his manliness by jumping over the bridge. He then does a bit of an epic leap, and I probably wouldn't suggest you stand under that when he comes back down. Okay, so we are moving on to the second phase of Volan. Now, at this point, there will be cannons everywhere, and he is slowly moving down the rampart here. Now, the cannons are firing off, and what he starts doing is he looks from left to right and casts a fiery beam of destruction. Now, I suggest avoiding this beam at pretty much all costs. I got hit by it, and it dealt about 3k initially, and it kept on dealing damage for a short duration, which took just over my health. I believe on myself it did about 22k damage over that duration, so if you can't heal, then you definitely want to avoid it. Okay, as you can see now, 2 shackles have appeared. Now this has basically bound Volan down for a short period of time, where you have a basically free pass to beat up his tail and try and get that out of the fight. As you can see, there's a yellow energy bar called Volan's Rage. Once that fills, as you can see, boom, he's not happy, he's moving on, getting out. It's not a problem if you can't kill the tail, but it does help in later phases, as the tail will be there throughout the next phases if you do not kill it. But I think we managed to get it to about 40%, so we're not doing too bad. There are also a few ads knocking about. Now, these are mainly chasing after the healers, so if you have a bit of spare time, or maybe tanks in this encounter can pick up the ads and bring them to the tail to be cleaved. If you're not, then, be a nice DPS, go find your healers and just beat up the ads that are pounding on them, or they're going to take quite a bit of damage, and, the healers are going to be dead, which in turn will result you possibly being dead, and, won't put you in the good books at all. So as you can see, he just knocked down a wall. Pretty impressive. And he's working his way into a place called the Biofoundry. He's looking for a bit more power. The question is, will he find it in here? And the answer to that is yes. Now, as you can see, there are 2 sort of energy pylons. Just getting a couple of planar charges for this. Just a side note, Fury of the Ascended or Holy Champion didn't seem to work on the boss himself or any of his parts, so that doesn't seem like something we're going to need to spam over and over again. Okay, so he's just taken in that sort of big battery thing and got a bit more power to make up for the armor and leg plating and his big chest piece that he lost. Okay, so now we are jumping over the rooftops. He's doing a bit of RP, well, he's not really telling a bit of story, he's having a bit of a rage, a bit of a rant. He's not an happy fella. You've destroyed his precious armour that he's been locked away with so long with, and, beat up his tail a bit. If I was him, I wouldn't be too happy either. Anyways, so you have the swirly ground effects from phase 1 all over this phase as well, and you want to stay out of them. You also have these blue capsules, which when you get near, they will give you an ability which will ascend you to the platforms above. I'm just going to use it now, so it gives you one ability that initially throws you in the air, and a second ability which knocks you back. Another thing Volan is doing in this phase is also levitating everyone. He levitates you a fair bit in the air, and usually pauses you from whatever you're doing, and then drops you down, which, if you're caught out at the wrong moment, will probably, well, will quite possibly result to a death to falling damage. So what you want to do in this phase is avoid any platforms that have that green swirly puddle on, or you'll be taking constant damage, and it's not going to be pretty. There are also slimes that will disable the cannons. What you want to do is kill them and then use planar charges to power up the cannons. Once the cannons are powered up, you can then jump in them and start firing away at the boss. Another thing he does is select one of the 4 platforms and put his hand over it and start burning it. So if you're on that platform, you don't want to be on that platform for too long, or you're going to meet a fiery demise pretty quickly. As you can see, I just jumped in a cannon, and there are several abilities. The first one is basically a spam cannon fire, which does 13k damage every time you click it, and you can just spam this as hard as you can. Second one is a debuff, which increases the damage taken of a certain part. And that's helpful if you're looking for a bit of team gameplay and being a bit of a team player and helping everyone out. Okay, so I just skipped ahead a bit because this phase, since everything has so much health, went on for a good sort of 20 minutes. The health might be changed, it might not be. This is beta, so we don't know in the end. So the last thing that is left, we've only got one more pylon to kill off of his back. Now, I've sort of, at this time, developed a way of hitting that pylon, which is jumping back and forth between the two jumpy pads here. Okay, so just going to do that, and we'll nuke down his pylon and see what happens after that. Unfortunately, due to a few in real life circumstances and not the game, I didn't actually get the final phase of this encounter, which is Volan's head followed by Volan himself on video, due to the fact me having internet issues at the time with Virgin Media, which are now resolved. You know, they're fairly helpful, but these little things, you know, they just get on your nerves a bit. Okay, so what we're going to do, just beat him up a bit more with the cannons, and he is down for the count. This allows the pad to go orange, and it means you can jump on his back and then finish him off. Broke that last Volan, and he's seeping some sort of tango. Maybe this is how Tango and Lucozade is made. Some sort of acid from Volan. You never know. Okay, so he's down, and let's just get off his back, because that does not look like a friendly place to be when he comes back up. Okay, so the second to last phase is the head of the beast himself. You're basically, in this phase, he, you know, gets out some bone armor, and you're fighting his head. To do this, you basically have to use the launch pads to jump up and hit him, or be in one of the cannons, and so forth. During this phase, he does a beam from left to right, which in a few minutes you will see me get hit by, and then I cut out the bit just before I die to make me look, you know, somewhat a good player. Anyways, thank you for watching, and like the video and subscribe if you want to. Cheers guys, see you next time.